Good evening, I'm Dennis Frisson. On tonight's Art Salad, we'll start looking back at the life and career of Barnaby Hodge, the singer and songwriter behind folk band Barnaby Fair. They started in the 60s and morphed their way through many reincarnations before splitting up at the smash hits After Show Party in 1982. For Barnaby, some naff solo attempts followed, full of self-pity, self-loathing, and self-raising flower. He lived a life in the shadows for many years. Often journalists who tracked him down would be given a cold shoulder. Profoundly, a cold shoulder of lamb at times, for a metaphor. That is until now, where we have been given permission to interview him, amongst rumours of a reunion with fellow bandmates and a host of other contributors who experienced this truly inspiring twit.
The finest rags, rolled tobacco, pipe and shag. Mummy wants a new handbag when we go to town. Singing, hey there, mine's a pint, yeoman at the bar. It's gonna be a long one, so we better leave the car. And well, we make the most of it until we go back to the pit on Monday. So come sing with me and raise another jar. Hey there, mine's a pint, yeoman at the bar. It's gonna be a long one.
Barnaby's journey began in a beatnik club in Climping in the 60s. On stage one night, he saw a pretty woman in the crowd, playing patty cakes with an imaginary friend. It was Rosie Buffle, a talented local busker.
Oh, she was a sweetheart, I tell you. It was me on stage, all this beatnik shit I was doing at the time. Free fall, I call. Who's there? Don't care. And this lady coughed and said, bollocks. I mean, it was a tough branch of the Women's Guild. And she put flour in her hair.
It was very of the time, wasn't it?
What? Home pride cooking flour? I don't think so, Dennis.
From that moment, they were inseparable. Mostly as Barnaby had got his finger caught in her hairband. They began to look for other fellow dropouts and deadbeats to hang around with. Often sat by the seafront with an acoustic guitar and a pot of hot bong tea. It was there that they co-wrote their first songs and began to fall in love. Rosie.
Well, I thought he stepped out of the 1660s, never mind the 1960s. He used to wear this ridiculous pixie hat and cut his own hair with a dog bowl.
Oh, goodness.
And smelt like it too.
But you were beautiful. What was the attraction?
Well, being quite lazy, I thought, he'll do.
May I use your loo?
Straight through the kitchen, out the back door, and there's a pot by the water butt on the right.
We'll be jiffy.
Oh, mind the wooden barrel by the dahlias. It's got my dried herbs in it.
They soon became the Sonny and Cher of the Bosom Bypass. It was luck, then, that a while later, record producer Graham Michaels happened to cross their paths. The year was 1968.
I was with my wife. We were at a place called Brentford Nylons looking for some net curtains, I remember exactly. And when we walked into the shop, right in the middle of the room, there on the floor were this delightful couple. I mean, she was just bewitching. I mean, you couldn't take your eyes off her. But then this extraordinary voice came from the man sitting next to her. My wife covered her ears, but I could hear a minor, maybe instantly forgettable, but nonetheless a minor hit. The song was called "'Twas on the Way to Market."
Walking down St. Swithin's Lane, I spied a young maid by the name Priscilla Payne. She had the biggest eyes I ever did saw. Some of the ladies in the village swore she was a whore with to judge others' lives. Certainly not I, for I took 7 wives in a month.
Graham was over the moon. He'd not only proved it was worth delaying his wife buying those net curtains to sign a contract on a doily, but that he could indeed tell a smash hit from his arse after all.
We had a much better time in those days, except for scurvy, rickets, and of course the ruddy plague, and we didn't live past 20.
Released later that year, it held the beginning for the two youngsters as they chose the name Barnaby Fair.
Well, there were several reasons why it was fair, because I was Barnaby, and
people said, "Is she your fair lady?" I said, "No, it's because I'm always having to cough up for a bus fare."
Back then, I wore these flowery old dresses, but they never had pockets for change. I didn't really believe in the concept of money, but that didn't hold sway with the shopkeepers or some of the bus drivers.
Graham Michaels.
I had to get them into the studio to get an album recorded pretty quickly, and I thought that the only thing we needed to do was to just beef up the sound a bit.
As a vegan, Rosie insisted on a meat alternative, and they were off.
Now, I was thinking first that I'd join them on the keyboards and the double bongos because I love to bash the bongos, but I tended to get a little excited, which didn't always fit with the vibe of the time and the band.
Bish Bash Bongo Party was sadly a flop. End of the B-side, fans would carve across it from the end of the previous track, so it never played and just slid to the label. It is indeed a wonder the album happened.
What? Why?
The week of recording the album, calamity. Barnaby was hit with a bug, meaning he couldn't take on vocal duties. Instead, bassist Ron stepped in, which would be the bone of contention for many years to come. Ron cupboard. I thought, great early tea. Graham said, "No, I've paid for all the studio time. You, Ron, I want you to try and sing." And I did. And Barney hated that. To show his displeasure, and with a lack of voice, Barnaby would only communicate to Ron in the studio by a medium of dance and hand gestures. It was supposed to be my big moment, and my throat was so hurty, Dennis. But it was Rosie, his love, that came to the rescue in the end.
Well, luckily, I had some milk of magnesia, some crumbs from an old oat cake by the sink,
Anything else?
and half a beetroot.
So what happened next?
Barnaby drank it, and he stared at Ron for a moment, did a little dance, wiggled his bottom, and vanished into the sound booth.
She was like a knightess in shining armour, and she saved me, and I sang my grateful heart out. Well, I'm looking for a fistful of folk tonight. Folk tonight. I don't want to party, don't want to fight, don't want to fight. Catch me down where the pier juts out, just me and Rosie hanging out. Pour me a jar and off your cap, sleep it off with an afternoon nap. Fistful of folk. I want a fistful of folk. Now, pack up with your monkey, try to get away. Rainbow-coloured ferry, take me holiday. Wake up in the sky, free of all the fear. I think I see my brother's house from here. From here. What are you at? Oh, if I may ask about the lyrics from that time, there's been a lot of speculation, Barnaby, about the meaning behind the formidable rap you did in Fistful of Folk. I was lying staring at the sky one day at the back of the studio, and I had this dream. A friendly monkey came and lifted me up into the trees. He swung me up into, it was sort of like a big ferry in the sky. He took me on a carefree camping trip to Mont Saint-Michel in France. But I left that bit out of the song. The success of the album took them all by surprise. But there was trouble at Mill.
One of the guys farted too much for him in the van. It seemed to be just too much for him, the poor guy. And we're on top of the moon. But for Barnaby, depressing.
Yeah, well, I was, stuck in the van with Ron and his horrible pickled egg farts, and I missed the intimacy of just me and Rosie, being in there. And of course things were changing, getting heavier, the arrival of Zepp. Oh, of course, Led Zeppelin. No, Zepp the roadie. He sold Rosie a fuzz box, which weren't brilliant because she only had an acoustic at the time. Fistful of Folk had put them firmly on the map, but halfway through the 18-side concept album, Milkshake Mandolin Supper, the band began to fall apart. Graham feared the band were disappearing up their own asses.
I was worried that they were disappearing.
To where?
Right up their own asses.
As they busied themselves running up endless studio bills, the world outside was about to hit recession. Strikes, the 15-day week, Coal was no longer being sold at British home stores, and the music landscape was changing. A new decade loomed. Pensioners in Tim Curry makeup and Christmas bauble earrings wielded their glitter bomb boogie, and just as I was learning to ride without stabilizers, something called glam rock was stomping its platform boots, demanding we turn and look at them. And we didn't have a clue what to do. And you can hear more from the Barnaby Hodge story at the same time next week, or binge it all online and ruin it for yourself. The album to complement this series is soon available on Bonko Records. Online, digital, not vinyl. The Barnaby Hodge story is conceived, created and recorded by Martin Tott, with additional voices from Tim Ahern as Graham Michaels, Rosie Hughes as Rosie Buffett. Thanks to Rockin' Ralph Jordan for his recording of Stone Cold Glam Bam. I surely agree, it's a real toe-tapper. All applause is fake and added on afterwards. Oh, I'm not supposed to read that bit. Oh.